What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. Today we are going to be going back to 2018, when Cedar Point announced a brand new attraction for 2019. Was it going to be a ride? Was it going to be something else? Well, it was going to be something that Cedar Point has never seen before. A whole new ground-up area that was based upon the world of fantasy and the Wild West of Cedar Point. This was Forbidden Frontier on Adventure Island, and when it opened in 2019, not a lot of people knew what was going on beyond the gates, and so, when people discovered what it was, people were pleasantly surprised. It was a massive interactive exhibit full of interactive characters to talk to and complete tasks with, and of course, interactive exhibits like a playground and a rowing boat attraction. These were very interesting attractions, and you could easily tell that this area was more catered to families and children, and was a very peaceful area within the premises of the park. I know when I first went in 2019, I was very impressed. The characters were put together extremely well, and the area was very well detailed. It almost felt like a theme park. And even though it had a very successful 2019 season, attendance sharply declined in the 2020 and 2021 seasons. And recently, at Winter Chillout in 2023, they decided that they were going to close this for good. The area will be closed for the 2023 season and will not return. True Stay is officially over, and this Forbidden Frontier will have something new in the future. Going from why the concept failed all the way to what's going to replace it, let's get right into Forbidden Frontier. This is Cedar Flags, and today we are going to be looking at the failure of Forbidden Frontier on Adventure Island. Now, before I get into why it failed, I just want to quickly say a little bit of my personal thoughts about it. I absolutely loved this area, but I could see why it ended up failing. I absolutely loved how interactive the area was. All of the characters were great. They were in character the whole time. They were dressed very well, and it felt like a theme park atmosphere. So why did this area fail? Well, let's get into my 3 reasons. Reason number 1, the area was pretty hidden. How to get there? You went onto the Frontier Trail, took a right into a very thin path leading onto a bridge, and you ended up at the island. It was definitely a hike to get there off the beaten path. And if you were going from, let's say, Millennium Force to Maverick, you may just pass it up because it doesn't look too significant. And that leads to reason number 2. It didn't really stand out. There wasn't anything too tall or magnificent in this area, so when you saw it or when you were on Millennium Force and saw the buildings below, you didn't really assume much of it. This gets to reason number 3, it was a little too repetitive. This is probably why it was a really big deal in the 2019 season. And I'm not saying this is necessarily a bad thing, because obviously, many people are going to go to Cedar Point for only 1 or 2 days out of the whole year, and so that's all they're going to get. But with an area this small in a non-themed based park, it definitely stuck out. And though I think this would be an incredible fit at some other parks that rely more on theming, like some Hershend parks, I think at a Cedar Fair park, it just didn't fit out too well. I also truly believe that if this ended up being a very successful area of the park and something that brought in a lot of money and revenue, I believe that this would have been spread upon the Cedar Fair chain. But as you could tell of how short-lived this attraction was, it didn't do the best in sales, and it was more of a liability than an asset. I am absolutely devastated on this removal. But we do have to look into the future. Let's look at what could possibly replace this area, or be a new version of this area. So in this part of the video, I want to talk about what could possibly be replacing this massive area. Now first I want to look at the plot of land that this area sits on, and it is around 7 acres in size. It is an island within the Cedar Point Peninsula, and is either covered in trees or the Forbidden Frontier landscape. A part of the area is also taken up by the former plot of land that Shoot the Rapids sat on, which was an Intamin water ride, but most of the area seems to be developed and taken up by the Forbidden Frontier expansion in 2019. Most of the buildings here are extremely new, and the midways are new as well, which plays a massive factor. Now, this is 7 acres in size, and it is mostly developed with that new land. But a very important note about this island is that a lot of it is taken up by Millennium Force's midsection, with its 2 overbank turns and twister area. So, what do I think could take up this land in the future? This is a major area, and I really don't think that Cedar Point is going to take this newly developed area for granted. I do think that Forbidden Frontier is done, but I don't think they are done with the midways they built in 2019. So let's get into Scenario 1. Scenario 1, in my personal opinion, is the most likely out of all of the scenarios that I came up with. In this scenario, the park will reuse most of the buildings and midways that it constructed for this area and turn it into a completely new midway for the park. This would be a normal area, like in many other Cedar Fair parks with rides, restaurants, and shops. Now, Cedar Fair has been doing this lately where they have made completely new midways within their parks, sporting new flat rides or maybe even a new roller coaster. Some of these notable examples coming next year are Aeronautica landing at Carowinds, there's also an area coming to Kings Island, and then, at Cedar Point itself, the boardwalk. So, why couldn't they renovate this area, put some new flat rides in it, and maybe even a small coaster? Now, in my opinion, the only way that this would actually work is if they connected the island with the other side of the park near Camp Snoopy. Let's say they built another bridge over the river and Snake River Expedition rides, and make a brand new midway that cuts right through the island. This could be a brand new area, and maybe you can relocate some of the Camp Snoopy rides to the island and have an opening in that midway. This would be an incredible idea, and if I were the owner of Cedar Point, I think this is what I would do. But let's get into Scenario 2, which is a little more exciting for all you enthusiasts. It would be a thrill coaster. Now, in this scenario, most, if not all of the Forbidden Frontier area would have to be torn down, which would be a lot of money wasted since this was recently built in the last 6 years. So, what would be here? Well, a brand new, state-of-the-art coaster. Now, just like Scenario 1, I could also picture a midway going through the island leading onto the other side, just so it's not a hidden area, but what would be on the island itself? I could see it being dominated by a brand new roller coaster, a big, thrilling one, to say the least. It could have a little bit of a Wild West theme, and there could be so many options, like a Mach Extreme Spinner, like Time Traveler at Silver Dollar City, a Gerstlauer Looper, like either an Infinity or a Eurofighter, and of course, a GCI Woody, which has been rumored to come to the park for years. Even something like a family GCI would work incredible here. Finally, let's get into scenario number 3, and this is probably the funniest out of all of them because there's a possibility this could actually happen. This is the extended layout for Top Thrill Dragster. Could you imagine this island being taken up by Millennium Force's layout and Dragster Reimagined's layout? That would be absolutely incredible, and it would add to the element that this is the roller coaster capital of the world. Now, there are a few setbacks for this. One, Top Thrill Dragster's layout does not point in this general direction, so there would have to be a few changes. Number 2, they would have to tear down all of that infrastructure they built a few years ago. This would also probably tear down a bunch of trees as well. And this is one of the only areas of Cedar Point that still sports a lot of natural beauty. So I feel like that would be a big problem, but if Cedar Point does it right, I feel like this could work out perfectly, and the new dragster could take up the remaining plots of land on this island. Anyways, what do you think of this decision that Cedar Point has made? Did you ever go to Forbidden Frontier? Let me know in the comments below and let me know what you personally thought of it. If you're new here, like and subscribe, and of course check out the link in the description for merch and social media accounts. Until next time, this is Cedar Flags and I'll see you all later.